All right, so we got the aviation industry about to evolve and into something new. This was something back in the '60s, and then it got shut down, and now it's starting to come back up again. And it's supersonic flights across the world. So faster is better, and we got a great interview over at the Sean Ryan show. He interviews Blake Scholl, the CEO of Boom Aviation, and this is the new supersonic airplane that is about to open up the doors and bring back supersonic aviation or fast aviation across the world. You know, like New York to London, and in less than 4 hours. So Overture is the supersonic airliner, commercial airliner that they're building, and companies like United Airlines, American Airlines, and Japan Airlines are starting to invest into this new technology that's about to come out. So let's head over to the Sean Ryan interview and let's see what Blake Scholl has to say. Let's do it.
Let's move into I mean, how did you get started? You went from Amazon to your company that you sold to Groupon. How did you get in? I mean, what is it with aerospace?
It's for some of us, there's just this magical flight thing, and it's a bug that bites us, and it never gets out. I remember taking my first flying lesson when I was an intern in college, working in the Bay Area, and I'll never forget that first takeoff. It was just magical. It was just sort of this experience of,
all right, this feels almost illegal to know, but our windows were so old.
crap, I have my life in my own hands, and also I have my life in my own hands. So it was both scary and empowering. And I've loved flight ever since. When I was in my 20s working at this startup in Seattle, there was one of the final Concordes had been put out to the museum there, and I went and saw it. And I remember looking at the Concorde. I remember looking at the SR-71 Blackbird.
So the Concorde is the predecessor of what he's trying to build, the Overture. What you see, the little model next to his hand on the left. He's trying to build that airplane. It's the old Concorde that was, I think, taken down back in the 90s. So he's trying to bring that back. The Concorde from the past.
And thinking, like, how is it that the most amazing military airplane and the most amazing commercial airplane are both found in a museum, not in the skies? And I put a Google alert on Supersonic Jet that day, and I figured someone's going to obviously fix this. This was like 2007, so Concorde had been gone for about 4 years. And I thought, okay, somebody else is going to fix this. I want to be first to know when I could buy a ticket. I still have this email I wrote to my girlfriend about how much better our life would have been, if she'd been able to show up at Mach 2. And for basically a decade, it was just crickets. There was some talk of a supersonic private jet for the ultra wealthy. But I looked at Concorde, and I was in Amazon when Concorde got shut down. I never got to fly on it. Why? It's a $20,000 ticket.
Mm-hmm.
That was for royalty and rock stars.
That's crazy. The Concorde, which was the supersonic airplane at the time in the 90s, was $20,000 for a flight. That's insane. That was crazy.
And I don't have anything against private jets. I think they should exist. I think we should have supersonic private jets. But the big problem with Concorde was it wasn't affordable. And so meanwhile, I'd had this experience of starting my first company and selling it to Groupon. and it was I'd been at Amazon, so I thought I knew e-commerce, and then I'd been at this other startup that was building mobile apps, so I thought I knew mobile. And what everyone tells you is you should work on what you're good at, and so I thought I should work on mobile e-commerce. And so I end up I can't say this with a straight face. I built a mobile barcode scanning game. And it's like the least important thing I could possibly work on. And I would, and yet, like, there's no such thing as an easy startup. I was worried I'd lose all the investors' money. I was at times super depressed. And I'd wake up and think, like, why did I get into this? How do I get out of it? And so when I had a chance to kind of sell the company to Groupon and the investors got their money back in a little bit, it was my escape fantasy had come true.
By the way, Groupon, I think, is completely non-existent now. They used to do coupons, I guess virtual coupons for supermarkets and all that. Yeah. I remember Groupon, but I think it's gone now.
Nonetheless, I had loved that experience of being my own boss, of creating something from scratch. And I just figured, man, I just want to invert every decision I made at that company. And I never want to work on something where I have to ask myself, is it worth it? So after a couple years at Groupon, having gone one level from barcode scanning game to internet coupon, I just couldn't, I couldn't take any more of those phone calls saying, send more email, Blake. And fired myself. And I thought, let me put all my startup ideas in order of how happy I would be if it worked.
How many startup ideas did you have?
I was looking at my notes from this a couple of weeks ago because I actually kept a journal back then, and there were probably a couple dozen.
I'm just curious. What were some of the other ideas?
Oh, they were terrible.
Were they all in aerospace?
Some of them were, and some of them, like I had an idea for a better rental car company. I had an idea. Probably the most promising thing I had on the list was a convenience-oriented airline that would fly out of private terminals rather than commercial terminals. And it turned out somebody else did that. That became basically JSX.
Okay.
And I'm a big fan of that. But I ended up saying I want to just focus on what would be most awesome if it worked, and I'll leave everything else aside, including whether I think I personally have any business working on it.
By the way, there's a big market on the rise for private aviation at low cost. It's starting to pick up a lot more. Private jets, smaller jets are starting to become more affordable, and it's not cheap, but it's starting to become a thing. So what he was doing probably at that time was something good, but like everything, he let that one go to make something better.